My name is James Hunt. I'm past district governor from Rotary District 6600. Along the way of this journey we call life, I've learned 3 lessons I would like to share with you today. Lesson number 1, life isn't fair. Life is not the same for any of us. We have to learn to live with what we have. We are all travelers in time, each seeking our own way to the future, each deserving a fair chance to reach our destiny. But life is not always fair. In 1953, I was a 6-year-old first grader in Shelby, Ohio, as we had a large federal government facility in our town with over 60% of the working age people working for federal government, including my own father. We were selected as a control group to test the newly developed Dr. Jonas Salk's oral vaccine for the wild virus polio. I was a guinea pig and didn't even know it. I can remember it like it was yesterday, standing in line in Auburn Elementary School gymnasium with the light streaming in from the windows above, reflecting off of the shiny, freshly waxed wooden floors. We were lined up to receive a little paper cup containing a sugar cube pill in it and given another small paper cup of water to wash it down. In front of me in line was my little first grade friend, Roger Hicks. He was in front of me because we were lined up in alphabetical order, and Hicks comes before Hunt. That next summer, Roger became ill, and I was told I was not allowed to go to his house, let alone go play with him. I was told he had polio. I remember going to my mother and asking, how can that be? I thought we were given those pills so that we would not ever become sick. I remember my mother telling me Roger received a placebo. Of course, I had no idea what the word meant, but I soon did, at the age 7, learn its meaning because of where Roger stood in line. He received the placebo. And because of where I stood in line, I received the real medicine. I think this was my first experience of learning the journey of life is not always fair. When Rotary decided in 1985 to start the campaign to eradicate polio from the world, there were over 350,000 polio cases a year. That is 1,000 children each and every day that came down with this dreadful disease. If you are over the age of 60, it is likely you know someone like my friend Roger Hicks that was inflicted by polio. Roger could be you, your friend, your sister, brother, cousin, person down the street, but we all knew someone that was inflicted with the disease. But if you are 40 years or younger, it's unlikely you know anyone that had polio. In fact, you may even question, why does Rotary make such a big deal out about this? We have been doing this since 1985. They said we'd be done by 2005, the 100-year anniversary of Rotary, and we're still at it. Perhaps we should move on to something else? Say that to all those that were not in the right line, or as Roger, were not in the right place in line. Here in the United States, we are fortunate. We were in the right line. We were in the right place in line. We have not seen a case of polio for 40 years, except the case in 2013 that came from a plane right away. Life is not always fair. Life is not fair for children in Gaza, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, but we can do something about it. Which brings me to lesson number 2. There's no such thing as perfect. 15 years ago, after Sue and I sold our businesses, I got to check off one of the things on my bucket list: teach at the college. I was an adjunct professor at Lorain County Community College, and I taught macroeconomics, microeconomics, labor relations, and entrepreneur management. In my first semester of teaching, our director of the business college advised all of us, the students will be doing an evaluation of your teaching skills. You'll be sent a report at the end of the semester. Don't run your holidays. Trust me, don't read your evaluations until after the holidays. Well, the big envelope came in the mail from the college, and naturally, I opened it right away. I started reading the comments from the students. I quickly read down through the reviews and was pleased at all the positive comments. Then at the bottom of the page was a comment that brought a little tear to my eye. If I only had one day left to live, I would want to spend it in Professor Hunt's macroeconomic class. I thought, this makes it all worthwhile. Those long hours of preparation and effort had paid off. Then I turned the page where I found the students' comments continued. Because if I only had 1 hour to live, Mr. Hunt can make the hour I spend in macroeconomics class seem like it's going to last for eternity. There's no such thing as perfect. When we look at our progress to end polio from our map in 1988, when it all started, all of the dark-colored countries were inflicted with polio. Fast forward to 2020, and we find there's only two countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan, that are still infected or epidemic. How do we stand in 2024? How many cases have we had? Well, as of August 13th, 2024, there have been 72 confirmed cases that were actually vaccine derived. 30 of those cases out of Nigeria. And we've had 2 actual cases in Afghanistan and 4 in Niger. We have eradicated 99.9% of all cases. We have prevented, and this is very important, we have prevented over 20 million children from this dreaded disease. We're now on the brink of totally eradicating the disease. Yes, after over 35 years of hard work, Rotary and its partners are on the brink of eradicating this tenacious disease. But a strong push is needed now to root out polio once and for all. It is a window of opportunity of historical proportion. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation recognizes the importance of our signature program. Rotary International has announced a new renewed commitment with Gates Foundation to jointly raise up to $450 million in support of global efforts to eradicate polio. As part of the commitment, the second 3-year extension of the partnership establishes more than a decade ago, Rotary will work to raise $50 million a year, with each dollar to be matched with 2 additional dollars from the Gates Foundation. The renewed partnership follows recent pledges by Rotary, $150 million, and Gates, $1.2 billion, to the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. Since 1985, Rotary has contributed more than $2.6 billion in polio eradication efforts. As long as polio threatens even one child anywhere in the world, children everywhere remain at risk. Which brings me to our last lesson, lesson number 3. Attitude is everything. In 1991, I had the privilege and honor of being selected to lead a group study team to the Philippines from our home district 6600 to District 3790, the North Luzon Island. I'm pictured here to the far right with our team and one of our host Rotarians from District 3790. We were originally scheduled to leave in the fall of 1990, but due to the eruption of Mount Pinatubo, our trip was delayed until January of 1991. When we arrived after a 12-hour flight, the first person to greet us when we came off the plane was Dr. Sabino Santos. He introduced himself simply as Benny. I soon learned this was Rotarian International Director Benny Santos that served on the RI board during 1989-1991. Benny Santos was an ophthalmologist and director of the Santos Clinic of Malolos. Immediately, I sensed I was around someone special. Everyone who ever met Benny would remember his smile. He was small in build, but no smile in the world could be bigger and brighter. Over the next month, I had several conversations with Benny. He told me one story I will never forget. When Benny became a district governor, he went to the United States for his training. At the International Assembly, he met a fellow district governor from Canada and looked at his name tag to see his classification was vaccine manufacturer. Benny asked him, "What kind of vaccine do you manufacture?" "We manufacture the vaccine for wild polio." Benny went on to make the comment to the future governor of Canada that the Philippines had the highest per capita of polio of any place in the world. If we only could afford the vaccine. We are a poor country, and it is a shame that this is a preventable disease. The Canadian DG said, "Well, we have to put an expiration date on the vaccine we send to the United States. The date is well in advance to the shelf life, so we're forced to throw away perfectly good vaccine. If you would have any way of paying for the shipment cost, we could give you all the free vaccine you could want." Attitude is everything. And Benny knew if his country was going to be rid of this dreadful disease, it would have to start with him. Benny went back to the Philippines after his training as a district governor and started to go to work on how to pay for the shipment of the free vaccine offered by his new friend from Canada. He did, and the Philippines, led by Benny, started to administer polio vaccine. Just as in life, many things in Rotary have small beginnings. In the Rotary year 1979-1980, then president of Rotary International, Jim Bomar of Tennessee, visited the Philippines as he carried his message, "Let Rotary light the way to Rotarians around the world." One of those Rotarians was Benny Santos. During President Bomar's visit, Benny arranged to administer oral polio vaccines to some children in a poor area. The resulting photo of the neatly business-suited Jim Bomar and the typical Philippine loosely worn white-shirted smiling Benny administering the drops was widely distributed in Rotary. That picture and Benny's smile had unusual influence. It was in the minds of many when the thought developed that Rotary not only could, but might undertake to immunize the children of the world around polio. Later, when Benny served as director of Rotary International, he made his testimony to the board that if the country with the highest per capita polio in the world could eradicate polio, then it was possible for Rotary to immunize the children of the world to eradicate this crippling disease from the planet. So we started the campaign to immunize children of the world. We didn't know how much it was going to cost. We didn't know how many volunteers it would take. Attitude is everything. Benny knew that. We are inches away from the goal. We need to carry the ball across the goal line and declare our victory for all those of us that have suffered. From lesson 1, life, yes, life isn't fair. But as Rotarians, we are here to help those less fortunate than us. From lesson number 2, there's no such thing as perfect, but we have a mission and goals, and we Rotarians need to keep on keeping on. And from lesson 3, and we all know in our heart's attitude is everything, and we need to end polio now. Just $10 vaccinates 17 children against this crippling disease. Together, we can end polio now. Growing up in sales, I was always told you don't get the order unless you ask. If you are new to Rotary or you've not obtained your Paul Harris Fellow status, I will match your donation 2 to 1. To become a Paul Harris Fellow, you need 1,000 foundation points. If you give $50 before the end of October, that is 50 foundation points. I will match your donation of $50 with an additional 100 points, giving you a total of 150 Rotary Foundation points to go towards your Paul Harris Fellow. In the description of this video is a link to where to give. Your donation goes directly to the Rotary Foundation and will be automatically recorded on your account with the Rotary Foundation. I will then send the additional points to the Rotary Foundation in your name. Remember, your $50 donation will vaccinate 85 children against the crippling disease. Together, we can end polio now. Thank you.